the ways that I do this exploration is with a spectrum, an embodied spectrum. Have any of you experienced a spectrum before? You know, like where somebody tells you, okay, here's a line. If you think this, go to this side. If you think that, go to that side, something like that. Okay, so with an embodied spectrum, we work with the same kind of notion where you imagine a line on the ground, imaginary line, doesn't have to necessarily be on the ground, but imagine a line. On one side, I will invite you to embody the frame that we've chosen. So the perspective of mentality or rationality. And I will invite you to make a shape with your body. So perhaps we can, you know, like how you did a shape when I asked you, you know, what's a gesture or a movement of how you're feeling right now? If I were to say to you, you know, what's a gesture or a movement of the concept of joy, what might you do? So I'm seeing shapes coming, I'm seeing movements. So that, okay, what's a gesture or a shape of my food is burnt? All right. Okay, so we can go into shapes, yeah? And so I will invite you into this shape. When you get into the shape, I will invite you to notice, you know, what else is going on in your body while you're in that shape. What emotions, what sensations, what areas of tension, and so on and so forth. And then I'll invite you to step out. And what I will do with you is also explore what lives on the other side. What is the quote unquote opposite of this? If you didn't have this as the ideal perspective, what else might be possible? And get into that shape, and we'll do another round of exploration there. And I think we have time to also do a transition practice. All right, so I will invite you to stand up and use the space. It's fine if you need to like step out of the frame a little bit, just so that you can have space to, if you know, if you're going to use movement, like be comfortable is perhaps what I'm trying to say. It's also fine and encouraged to use any of the things that are around you as props if they make sense for whatever it is you are going to go into. Yeah. So this is a bit theatrical. It's a bit like image theater. All right. So I'm going to first invite you to imagine yourself as a manifestation of this perspective that only the mind and the rational is ideal, is the best. The mind and the rational. What image might you go into, or what shape, or what movement, what gesture would represent this for you? No, just go into that shape now. Make a shape with your body. If you believe that the mind is the best, the mind is what is ideal, what shape might you make? Let's take a moment to find that shape for yourself. The mind is what is ideal, the mental, only the rational is ideal. This is the perspective that everybody should have. This is the perspective that you have also. Now that you've stepped into this shape, and you're noticing what it looks like in your body, does it have a quality of movement, this shape, this image? If it has a quality of movement, feel free to bring in that movement. And while you're here, just take a scan through all of your body and notice what places are tense or tight. And maybe what places are relaxed or loose. Continuing to hold this shape, this image. Notice what feelings accompany your shape. Are there some feelings coming up while you hold this shape? Maybe there's an image that arises in your mind while you're holding this shape. Maybe a memory, a situation that you've been in before. Is there a sound? If there is, you're welcome to make it. And finally, I invite you, if you could take this posture even deeper into itself, if you could do it at 200%, what happens? Do it more. Do it at 200%. Okay, finally, I invite you to find a word or a short phrase that encapsulates or describes your experience here. And when you have that, feel free to step out of this shape and just shake it off, like actually shake your body. And shake, twists to the back a couple of times. Maybe take one hand, place it on the opposite shoulder, and sweep all the way down. And repeat on the other side. You can do it a couple of times. You can go slow or fast, depending on what you need. And take a deep breath out. All right. So you had your first experience of one of the frames on one side. I will invite you now to imagine that spectrum. Imagine that where you stand is where this colonial frame lives, this idealized perspective of the mind, of the rational is the best. You look over to the other side, whichever other side that is, and what lives there? What lives on the opposite side of this shape that you were just embodying? What might be the opposite of a perspective that idealizes the mind and the rational? Can you imagine that? And I invite you to step into that opposite side. And you might want to physically actually step into that opposite side, like actually go somewhere different. What shape is that? The shape that is the opposite of the mind, the mental, the rational is the ideal. What image or what movement, what gestures, what postures do you make? And step into that, allow your body to step into that now. Once you're there, just notice that shape. Notice what it feels like, what the quality of experience in this shape is. Notice your body. Notice what places are tense or held, and what places are loose and relaxed. Notice what feelings accompany this shape, this posture. How comfortable are you in this shape? How familiar does it feel? Are there any images or sounds or situations, maybe memories that are arising in you while you're here? Finally, if you could take this posture even deeper into itself and do it at 200%, really allow your whole self to sink into it, what happens? Okay. And I invite you to find a word or a short phrase that encapsulates or describes your experience here. And when you're ready, feel free to step out of the shape. Again, to step out, I'll invite us to stretch, do a little bit of a stretch, be a little bit of a shake. Take a deep collective breath. And I don't know if you would like to take a few just like quick notes for yourself about your experience in these two places before we do the transition practice. And if you have water, water is really good. Have a drink of water. Just take some quick notes for yourself, like write down maybe some keywords if you had a phrase or if there was a memory that came up, like something that will help you remember later. Also, it's fine if you don't want to take some notes. You don't have to. And if anybody who's taking notes can just give me an indication that, you know, they're good. Can take a minute.
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay. All right, so I know you all just got cozy again, and I'm going to invite you to stand up once more. So for the transition practice, we are literally going to practice what it might look like to transition from the shape that is a colonial frame into the more regenerative frame with our bodies. Inviting our bodies to make that journey for us. And also like letting our bodies know that it is possible to make that journey. So how we'll do this is that I will invite you to remember your initial shape, to remember that first shape of the colonial frame of the mind and the rational as the ideal perspective. And once you remember that initial shape, I will invite you to step into it, like go back to that first shape. What was it? I am actually making that invitation right now. So I'm inviting you to step back into that initial shape. The mind, the rational is the ideal. This is the best way to look at the world. This is the best way to move through the world. The mind is king. Okay, so from here, I will invite you to begin to move, allowing your body to lead you until you land into your second shape, into the shape that was the opposite of this. So invite your body to begin to move slowly in small incremental movements until you land in your second shape. Okay, I think we all made it. And so I'll invite you to stand back up, take a deep breath, stretch a little. And we are going to do that a second time. And when we do it a second time, we'll do it even slower. And while you do it the second time, you will be paying attention, listening to all of the different shifts that your body makes to move from the first shape into the second shape. So if you were, I don't know, if you were up like this and your second shape was like down on the floor, while I make the transition, I'm going to just really notice like all it takes for my arms to come down, and I'll take it super slowly to really listen to all of the things that have to shift. And then I notice, oh, hey, my shoulders had to come down. Okay, and then my back had to arch a little bit and I had to fold in a little bit. So really just listening to all of the shifts that your body makes to move you from that first shape into the second shape. So you're noticing, you're paying attention, you're listening to the body shifts. You're also listening to any internal kind of emotional shifts that also happen. Okay, so going back into that first shape. First, is that okay? Thumbs up if it's okay. Okay, great. So stepping back into that first shape. The mind is king, the mind is the ideal, the rational is the ideal. Once you're in that first shape, this round we are moving slower and being really present to all the shifts. When you're ready, begin to move, allowing the body to lead and moving as though you're moving through honey, listening to all the micro shifts that happen. And I'm going to be quiet while you proceed. Okay. Thank you for this practice. I invite you to step out of the shape, take a deep breath, and I invite you to just do what is called a front occipital hold, placing one hand on your forehead and placing the other hand on the back of your head with the thumb kind of at the base of, or the start of your neck, the base of your skull. Just breathing while you're here, allowing your mind to just integrate and make sense of what it received. Let your neck be loose. Take a deep breath. And maybe you want to hold any other part of your face, your neck, your chest. Maybe you want to rub your chest a little. Maybe you want to give yourself a hug, a squeeze. Take a drink of water and then come back together when you're ready. Okay. And if folks want to take a few notes of what that transition practice was like for you, if there's anything that you noticed in particular that you'd like to write down, I'll just leave a minute for us to do that. And then we can come back together and share and explore, what next? Okay. So a reflection question that I have for you is, how familiar did this frame feel in its colonial manifestation? How familiar was this place of the mind, the mental, as the rational as idealized perspective? And did you have any kind of memories or images coming up of places where you've encountered this frame at work, whether in your own body, in the way that you move through the world, in your relationships with other people, or in the group or world level around you, like in institutions, in policies, in decisions that are made that impact groups or people at a large scale? How familiar was this?
Well, I'm happy to start. It was all too familiar. And so was the pain that and the constraint I was feeling in my neck. And it immediately reminded me of I have a left shoulder pain that is, been with me for a while. And it's always the Achilles heel that tells me, stop. So yes, all too familiar, and the constriction and the pain that had become normalized was very stark for me.
Thank you for sharing that. If I could ask, did you notice that it was familiar, or right now are you noticing that it's familiar on these three different layers of kind of relating or reality, like in the intrapersonal, in the interpersonal, and in the group? Like, are you able to see it in each of these levels, or is there one level that perhaps you see it more?
I saw it simultaneously and as interconnected. So I saw, of course, I felt my body, but then I also felt the kind of larger body, and I started to think of all the people I know who have herniated discs. And particularly around the upper spine. And then I thought of, oh my goodness, that's the society. The society has a herniated disc. But I think what was most apparent to me was the intra and the inter. Yeah.
So you could maybe you had memories or images of like situations when that was at play.
Hello, my name is Jessica. Hello, yeah. So I don't quite remember the question or the question that you mentioned just now, but I remember the things that I wanted to right away respond when you mentioned the reflection. And I would say while doing the positions just now, it did make me wonder, like, how does this reflect to the mentality and the rationality? But then one thing that I noticed as we did the last part, which is the transitional, so that is when I truly acknowledge each movement that my body's made. So when we did the first posture and we were to imagine this is the state of mentality, something about it being the ideal way, and then and then what is on the other side. So I have my things that I envision, which are the opposite of the ideality of the first position that I was in. So from my first position where I stood and was in this position, and then I shifted to a position where I am much more lower and where I compress my body more. It doesn't really connect or make any sense when we did the first and second position, but when we collab it into we made it into a transition. That was when I realized that this is actually a process, and through the process we can actually see the flow. And I feel like that reflects with the situation with the deep down inside of my head when I was doing the transition, and I feel all the pain. I can feel each part of my body is responding or working together to be in the second position, and I see that as a flow. And in responding or reflecting in today's topic, which is coloniality and how to untangle or decolonize, I learned that we can learn so much through embodiment, or the works of how our body work and how it can be translated into whatever that we are doing to move from one position to another, which is a process. If we pay attention and we feel all those process, we will be able to see the flow, and eventually we'll reach to the second position that we made lah. So I think that's all from me. I don't know if that is a reflection, but that's just how I feel. Thank you.
So wonderful, Jessica. Thank you so much for sharing. Like, you've just explained, the purpose of doing the transition. Because sometimes when we encounter like coloniality and, oh my gosh, it lives in my body, what should I do? What can I do? It seems sometimes very big. And I'm always curious when people do the transition. I don't think I asked it this time, but sometimes I ask people to listen to, where does the shift begin? When you're moving from that first shape into the second shape, where did the shift begin? Did it begin with my shoulders coming down? Did it begin with, I don't know, my chest twisting to a different direction? Did it begin with my feet sinking deeper into whatever it is? And using those as clues, because in our world and in the work that we're doing, we're constantly trying to bring about transitions from a situation that is extractive, that is wounded, that is, has received harm, into something that is more wholesome, more healthy, more alive, more vital. And so paying attention to where that shift begins can give us clues about where can we begin, or what do we need to put into place in order to support that transition to happen. And I purposely do not name, like the colonial frames all have titles, like the mentality and rationality as ideal perspective. I purposely don't name the other side for this reason, that it's a pluriverse. And so we will have different namings for what is alternative, what is different from coloniality. But what is true is that we all are also familiar with that side. And so a reflection that I might leave you with is, when you've been experiencing that, when that is familiar, that regenerative side, what lives on that side, try to remember what was going on when you were experiencing that. Who was doing what? What was the quality of the environment? What was going on when you were experiencing that other side? And how might you bring that more into your intrapersonal, like into your embodied practices, what you do with yourself, how might you bring that more into your interrelationships with people? How might you bring that more into your work in the world when you're interfacing with larger groups of people, so that that can be more consistently available to you? And in that way, we end up practicing regenerativity. That was a long question. But yeah, I wanted to at least mention that. But if anybody has any final questions or reflections, yeah, I would love.
Hi, Wangui. I'm one of the three people here called Ken.
Okay.
So this is beautiful. Thank you. Like Jessica and Nadira, I also found myself going down. And you asked just now, what was the first thing I did? Well, the first thing I did was to let go of my head, which I was holding in such a stiff way. But the next thing that I did was I found myself going down. And I hadn't even realized until you told us to do it slowly, I hadn't realized what a huge effort it was to keep lifted off the ground. And how beautiful it was to make contact with the ground. And I was reminded of that Sufi concept of making yourself flat with the earth. It's the kind of humbling that enables you to be open. So that was my experience. But what an interesting exercise to do to explore something like that.
I wonder I'm wondering what you have next, what you're going into next, and whether there will be space, if you all want to come back to this final reflection of how to bring this other side, the more regenerative side, into your daily lives, into your intrapersonal, into your embodied practices, into the narratives that you share, the media that you share between each other, and into the group norms, policies, programs that you create to impact the world.
So I wonder, everyone, if going into small groups, say 3 or 4, to talk about that might help. What do you all think? Yeah, I'm getting nods.
Yeah.
So that question in small groups. And so we would go from there, and then we would have dinner, and we're watching a film tonight.
Okay. And maybe I don't know how everybody is feeling. If everybody is in a reflective mood, maybe maybe the small groups can also be like something that you come back to. If everybody is feeling like, okay, actually a lot just came up, and let me pay attention to what's going on inside. Maybe I want to go and journal, maybe. So that is also, something that you could do to continue this process. Maybe let's do an exercise, just a short exercise to come back to where we are, the present moment. This is an orienting exercise. And I'll invite you to just allow your eyes to begin to look around you and notice everything that's around you. Notice the shapes, notice colors, notice size of things, textures. Look, to the sides, look up above, look below you as well, what's on the ground. Feel free to turn and look on either side of you. I like to also notice places where there's reflections. and things that are, kind of reflecting light back, noticing a play of light and shadow. And allow your gaze to just fall gently on something that feels pleasant to look at. Rest your eyes there for a moment and really look at that thing, whatever it is, noticing its qualities, shape, light, texture, size. Notice how it makes you feel inside to look at it. Notice what cues show up in your body that let you know how you're feeling right now. If it's a pleasant sensation, if it's a deeper breath, some kind of relaxation. And you feel free to relax your gaze, come back to looking at anything. And now thank you all. Thank you for your willingness to practice, to explore, to experiment with me. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for your bodies, for your histories, for all of what you brought into this space, and for all the other explorations that you'll continue into after this. Thanking your people, my people, the people of this land as well. And I will say good evening, good night, and yeah. I think
Can we all maybe stand up and send some Borneo love to Wangui, where she is?
Receiving. Receiving.
Thank you, Wangui. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I think I'll email you the text that Daya had asked about.
Yes. And I think some of the images, some of the 5 frames and all that, that was really helpful. We were taking pictures, but if you feel okay to share it, that would be great.
Yes, I will. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, bye everyone. Have a lovely rest of the session, of the day. And yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.